Hi, everybody. It's Jessica and Dave here. We are members of the Anderson's agronomy team, and we are excited to talk to you about the 3 essential parts of a foliar program. So as your crops start to get out of the ground and where we enter in those early vegetative stages all the way up through grain fill, you really want to make sure that you're supplementing those nutrients to make sure that you are really maximizing the productivity of your plants. Going into the early vegetative stage, Dave, I do have a question for you. What are we looking at early in the season?
All right, so the trick with a lot of foliar products is getting on enough nutrients that you're going to actually benefit the crop without burning the tissue. And we have some really good products, especially for that early season stress, that will benefit the crop without burning the tissue. There's a couple different critical growth stages that especially corn goes through. Corn comes out of the ground, and at V2, it starts transitioning over from getting most of their nutrients from the seed over into the root system. And sometimes that can be kind of like a teenage stage where the corn's looking a little pale, maybe some acne starting to develop, not looking too good. And so we can bump that plant health situation up by applying some Phosfix at that early stage. Another critical stage is that V4 stage, because at V4, between V4 and V6 stage, the corn crop develops how many rounds around that ear that it's going to develop. And so it can be anywhere from 12 rounds to up to 20 rounds. And that's a big yield difference that corn can develop. The short and skinny of it all is that we don't want it to start stressing out.
And talking about those stresses, they can be anything from hail, wind, too much water.
Or not enough water.
Or, any of those environmental factors, or just in general as the plant is focusing on, those critical growth stages, the ear sizing and deciding that's stressful for the plant too.
It's a natural stress, especially at those critical times. And if you complicate that stress with something else, like you said, it just kind of compounds itself. So we like to look at, on the early vegetative growth, we like to look at 3 different products. Your Phosfix, that's a great product for plant health. Eezy Moly-B. Boron can be a little touchy by putting it on in the starter, because a little bit can go a long ways on that. And so I actually like putting on a good slug of it post. And Eezy Moly-B is a great product to do that.
And spoon feeding those nutrients, because any large amount is extremely toxic to the plant and causes burn. So giving them in small amounts throughout the season really is going to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet and Easy is another good product. And talk about spoon feeding. This product can be put on almost at every stage, at every pass. Kind of like when we say zinc needs to be put on at every pass. Sweet and Easy is a great one there. It's a blend of proprietary sugar, gives it quick energy, kind of like lighten up paper. When you light paper, the flames grow really fast, really hot, really strong, and that's kind of what happens. It gives the crop a shot of energy.
So as the plant grows, it needs more energy and it needs more nutrients to really fulfill what it needs to be able to focus its energy on growing rather than looking for nutrients. So going into that mid-season, that's when you really want to look at a tissue test. Deficiencies, while they might not have visual symptoms yet, they still exist. And once those visual symptoms actually occur, it's too late and yield's already been impacted.
That, you know what, there's actually a good example with that. Nitrogen and sulfur. Both look almost identical at the time when it happens. And at the time when it happens, it's too late.
It's too late at that point.
And so that's a good point you brought up. Tissue testing is always a good
so
avenue.
looking earlier, before you even see a problem in the field, then taking a look at what nutrients you need to supplement. And more often than not, there are going to be a lot of micronutrients during that time. So I know we frequently mention that old stave barrel analogy, but if you haven't heard it yet, it's just an old wooden barrel with the different staves at different heights. And those different staves, they represent the nutrients. So at the lowest stave, that's as high as it can fill up. Otherwise, the water is going to start pouring out. And thinking of that as yield. So If your nutrients are limited, then yield can only get so much. That barrel can only fill with so much water.
Yeah, so your yield is limited by your lowest nutrient. So that's a great analogy. And couple that with the a tissue test, you can actually kind of add what you need at what time.
Yeah. And then we have a couple pack-it-all punches with our products, really at those micronutrient levels, that MicroBlitz and that MicroNourish FE. They provide abundant amount of micronutrients to help that plant overcome those deficiencies as well as deficiency prevention.
I've been working with that MicroBlitz now for 20 years. It used to be called something else. We added a fulvic acid and now we call it MicroBlitz.
And that fulvic acid helps with nutrient delivery.
Yeah, it carbon chelates those nutrients, and the crop just absorbs those nutrients at a faster rate. That's a great product, kind of a shotgun approach, and it really, really shines, especially in forage crops like alfalfa.
And then we also would like to put in that Sweet N Eezy. Like you said, put it in every pass. Give it that nice energy kick that it needs to help push that crop through.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Monster energy drink.
Yeah.
Where it's loaded up with sugar and caffeine.
Except it's good for the plant. Monster Energy is not so much. So we covered the early and mid-season, but looking into the late season, Dave, how do we want to get that plant to focus on grain fill and maximize that yield?
Yeah, late seasons, it's a little on the difficult side because you have to have specialized equipment to get that on, either that or with an airplane. But we can always match it up with a fungicide application. So I always say I hate additional applications. I always like the piggyback, and so we can focus on grain fill at this time. It's such an important time, especially that V9 stage on the corn plant. That is when it determines length of ear. So as I said earlier, around that V4, V6 time, it's going to determine rounds around. Now we're looking at length of ear. And so if we can prevent the nutrients from going away from the ear and supplementing some nutrient deficiencies in the plant to actually source to sink all the nutrients going to the ear, that's going to increase and maximize ear size.
And just a little clarification on that point. So when a plant's hungry for nutrients, it's going to take it either from the ground or from itself. So to feed itself, we don't want to take it from itself.
Yeah, we don't want it to cannibalize itself. Yep. And that's what happens. And it can either cannibalize from the ear or cannibalize from lower in the stalk profile, which is equally bad because we want that stalk to stand as long as possible so it doesn't blow over and lodge itself.
Mm-hmm. Going into the season, Dave, you make some excellent points about the nutrient needs of crops, and some of the ways that we can supplement these are through our OverPass products, Super 25B, Korrect, and then again, that Sweet N Eezy. Those are going to give really what that crop needs during that critical stage.
And you can actually take those different products, look at the analysis, and do kind of a precision strike on certain things that you know is happening. So
yeah. So that's all we have for you today. If you have any questions, get a hold of your Anderson's representative. Visit andersonsplantnutrient.com, or you can find us on Facebook at Anderson's Plant Nutrient Agriculture.